So we are on page 148 and we have to redo as the light of each of these higher powers is turned upon the earth. In the previous paragraph, he has told us the gradations of the spiritual planes of consciousness. What I, for clarity's sake, Shrivda doesn't use that, but I say level 1, level 2, level 3 is very easy to then understand. Level 1 is our normal ignorance, body, life and mind. And level 2 is the spiritual planes of consciousness where you are not identified with your body, mind, life. I go on repeating so there is clarity. And there are 4 planes which Shrivda has described in the previous para. The higher mind, in which you are not in ignorance relatively, you are like a broad daylight. You don't have to struggle. It's not a candlelit room anymore. It's a broad daylight, the higher mind. And then you go to the illumined mind where the light is intense. Okay. Then you go to the intuitive mind where the light is like lightning. It's so intense. Not only that, the object itself, whatever you are trying to see or person or whatever, reveals its own character. No light needs to be thrown on it from outside, but from inside the object itself, because the divine presence is there everywhere. That shines through, and you are capable of understanding. That's the illumined mind. Then finally you come to the overmind, which is almost like the supermind, but one step more and you go into the supermind. So now we'll read each and this is the gradation that he has spoken about, the 4 planes. Very clearly, yes. Yes, tell me.
Ranganath, it's higher, intuitive, illumined, and overmind. That is the thing, no? Higher, intuitive, illumined, and overmind.
You are right. You are right. I missed out the intuitive. Yes, you are right. So first is the higher mind, then there is the illumined mind, then there is the intuitive mind. Correct. And finally overmind, and above that is the third level. It is qualitatively quite different, Srivendra says. Don't think that overmind, in fact, there's resemblance so much. Srivendra says that sometimes you can mistake the overmind consciousness for the supermental. In fact, that's what happened to him also. And then he realized that no, because in overmind there is still difference is there, differentiation, multiplicity is still there. All the gods, the 100 million gods are there on the overmind plane of consciousness. So you have to go to a place where there is absolute unity. It's not that you don't see the multiplicity, but it's in the background. So that's right, the 4 planes. So now let us read, okay? As the light of each of these higher powers is turned upon the human activities of knowledge, because he is discussing right now sacrifice of knowledge. The chapter is the ascent of sacrifice, and he is dealing with the knowledge aspect. As the light of each of these higher powers is turned upon the human activities of knowledge, any distinction of sacred and profane, human and divine, begins more and more to fade until it is finally abolished as otiose. Because there you realize that everything is divine in grades. The divine is there even in matter. Matter which is so dark and dense and doesn't want to move, it is total darkness. Yet the divine is hiding there. So the difference between profane and sacred, in other words, that which is divine and undivine, the distinction disappears altogether. You see the divine everywhere, but in graded. Okay, the higher you go, the more divine reveals itself. The lesser you come down, the more the divine is hiding himself. Okay, and in darkness, in the matter, it is hiding himself absolutely fully, hiding himself very well. Okay, so it reminds me of a joke. Okay, because it's Churchill's sense of humor. Okay, this hiding itself reminds me. So 1940, when the world was 1939, the World War started in Britain, and there was this Chamberlain who was the Prime Minister, and he made a mess of things because he could not understand what Hitler's intention is. So he was replaced, and Churchill, who was in the opposition, he was made the Prime Minister, and he won the war because Srivendra was guiding him. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that it was Srivendra, but he knows that there was a force guiding him. He even declared in the parliament. Okay, I know that we will win because I can feel a force guiding us, and we are on the right path. Then finally, after that, he lost the election. In 1945, when the elections took place after the war, he lost the war. And he could not understand. I have led this nation to victory and they are rejecting me. What is this? Then the Labour Party came into power and the Conservatives lost and the Labour Party, Ramsay MacDonald and others, they gave independence to India. Okay. And then after that, Churchill came back again. So Churchill was there talking to his wife and he told that I can't understand how I have been rejected. Okay, I have won the war for this nation. So his wife told him, Winston, it must be a blessing in disguise. So he replied, I can assure you that it is very well disguised. Okay, so that's exactly what the divine is, hiding himself extremely well. You can't even see him, it is hiding so well. So that's a joke of Churchill, but it's very effectively the divine is hiding himself in, but he is there. Okay, we think that he is not there, but he is very much there in matter also, even in the inconscient. So, as the light of each of these higher powers is turned upon the human activities of knowledge, he is not talking of other things. So, he is talking only of knowledge, okay, the mind. Any distinction of sacred and profane. The word profane is usually used in two senses. Very vulgar, very low, mean. Okay, it can be used in that sense also. But here he is using in the sense of sacred and non-sacred. Okay, human and divine. There you are. Begins more and more to fade until it is finally abolished as use, useless, without any meaning, use. For whatever is touched and thoroughly penetrated by the divine gnosis is transfigured and becomes a movement of its own light and power, free from the turbidity and limitations of the lower intelligence. Okay, the lower intelligence, level 1, our normal mind. We don't see the divine there, but if you go rise to the supramental or even have a touch of it, the light from there will reveal the divine presence everywhere. That's what we're saying. And so the difference between divine and undivine disappears. The divine is there everywhere in grades. Okay. Lower is there, but he is hiding himself. Why he is hiding himself, that goes into another subject. We know that it's a Leela. There are many ways of explaining that. Okay. It's a challenge and an adventure, and it's also a play. He is playing with himself. He is himself creating the difficulties and is he playing a game. That also gives a lot of problems. You have to explain that. How can suffering be a game? But you have to explain that. That's another thing. And becomes a movement of its own light and power, free from the turbidity, the dirtiness and the limitations of the lower intelligence. It has not a separation of some activities. Some activities are divine and some activities are non-divine. That disappears. But a transformation of them all by the change of the informing consciousness, that is the way of liberation, an ascent of the sacrifice of knowledge to a greater and ever greater light and force. Okay. Now this raises some interesting questions. Okay. It is not a separation of some activities, but a transformation of them all by the change in the informing consciousness. That is to say that every activity in the physical world can be used in the spiritual life. So the question arises, if that is true, then why are we in the ashram forbidding certain things? There are rules. Huh? No smoking, no drinking, no sex and no politics. So how is that consistent? We have to see. Because in the lower plane when you are there, you have to avoid certain things, and when you go to the highest level, then it does not matter. But in the beginning, yes, you have to avoid because they will dirty you. So avoid the dirt, go up, and when you are up, you will see that even the dirt, the divine is hiding there, and now you are accessing the divine and not the dirt. So that's perfectly okay. Okay, that's what you see at the highest level. But the lower levels, you can't do that. You have to reject the dirt. That's what Swami is saying. That is an ascent of the sacrifice of knowledge to a greater and ever greater light and force. So note that, okay? As you keep going higher and higher, the divine reveals himself more and more, and this light also has force, okay? In the Gita, there is a phrase which says that the light, jnana deepena bhasvata, it removes all your ignorance, okay? The light of knowledge destroys the darkness. Okay, that is the phrase used in the Gita. So, knowledge is a purifier. The more you know, the more you get purified. So, all the works of mind and intellect must be first heightened and widened. Okay, you have to go higher, but not only higher, but you have to also widen it down in the physical world. The ascetic is not doing that. He is only heightening. I am interested only in height and not in the wideness. Wideness means I include all the activities of the physical world horizontally, but I am not interested in that. I am not interested in engineering. I am not interested in medicine. I am not interested in things in the physical world. I am interested only in the highest purity. So that is what the ascetic does. But Srimad says no. We must be able to apply the divine knowledge and divine love and divine power to all activities. So therefore there should be a widening also. Okay. So it's like a pyramidal structure. The higher you go, it's like a pyramid and you go to the highest level. But when that coming down, it must cover all the activities in the first realm though, not for the others. The others are not interested. They are actually rejecting the lower. Okay. So that's why he is using the word widening. Okay, it's interesting. So not only heightening but widening. Finally, afterwards he will say even deepening. That means even the subconscious has to be changed. Even the inconscient has to be changed. The inconscient in the individual, and to that extent also to the universal inconscient also. The inconscient won't disappear, but it will go further down, further down, further down. In other words, the range of your consciousness from the height to the lower will all be open to you in light. Above there is still something unknown, and below there is still the darkness, but the range will go on increasing. This is what evolution is doing. Okay. The inconscient never disappears fully. Okay, we make a mistake and say that, oh, divinization of matter, everything will become divine. No, it's not like that. There is only going to be little by little, little by little. It's very obvious, no? Matter has got infinite number of atoms, but when the animals come, the number of atoms in matter are 10 times more. 10 times is a way of saying, than the animals. Then when man comes, there are more animals than men. And when the supermind also comes, the supermental race will be less than men. So it's a pyramidal structure. So matter is being able to reveal what it is capable of. But that doesn't mean that everything will be transformed. That everything will be transformed for the supermental race. And that will help everybody else. Okay, it will help man because he will see, my God, this is possible. I also must get that. And the animals also, even now we see that animals, when they are associated with human beings, their understanding of things increases, and the rate of evolution also increases for animals. Cats and dogs and even other dogs, when they are in touch with human beings, they do progress faster. Okay, I go back to the text. All the works of mind and intellect must be first heightened and widened, then illumined. The light must come into these activities, lifted into the domain of a higher intelligence, afterwards translated into workings of a greater non-mental intuition. So intuition is non-mental. Okay. These again transformed into the dynamic outpourings of the overmind radiance. Now note the word dynamic. Dynamic means now at the overmind level you have the power to change the things in the lower. How much power? Not as much as the supermind, but even then quite a lot. Okay, you can help others. That's how Swami is helping others through sadhana, and he is also changing world events. So much power is there. But the absolute power of the supermind is not there at the overmind level. Okay? But these again must be transformed into the, note the word dynamic. That means there is power. Okay? It has got effectivity. The knowledge of the higher mind and the element mind, some amount of power is there, but not total. There is more a passivity, there is a peace and a calm, but not the power. Power is less. Some amount of power is there, certainly, but not too much. Again, that's a gradation. Okay. So those again transformed into the dynamic outpouring of the overmind radiance, and those transfigured into the full light and sovereignty of the supramental gnosis. So that's the aim in the integral yoga. You have to go right up to the supramental gnosis. When Siddhartha uses the word gnosis, he is always referring to the supermind. Okay. That's a third level. Okay. The words are very clear, you have to understand that. So here he has used very clearly supramental gnosis. Today I was reading in the letters, and he says that I was the first to use the word supermind and supramental, but now everybody is using it and it's in the wrong way. I don't mean that. That's what he says. Supramental doesn't mean above the mind. That's why he doesn't like that word. He uses the word gnosis, and he also uses the word truth consciousness. These are the two words which he prefers. He sometimes uses supramental because after all it is above the mind, but not the, it is neither the absolute nor is it higher than mind. It's an in-between plane. The supramental is the link between the highest absolute and the lowest inconscient. It is the link word into the dynamic point of the overmind, and those transfigured into the full light and sovereignty of the supramental gnosis. Note the word sovereignty. Okay? Sovereign. Sovereign is when you don't need to depend on anybody else. Okay? You are yourself the king. Like India is now a sovereign nation. It was not when the British were there. It was not a sovereign nation, but now we are a sovereign nation. And incidentally, I am again diverging from the, but now India has started asserting its sovereignty. If you are following that, you will know. Modi as well as Jai Shankar, they speak out very plainly, and the West doesn't like it, but they are accepting. Okay. Now, it is this that the evolution of consciousness in the world carries prefigured but latent in its seed and in the straining tense intention of its process. In other words, he is saying that even in matter, it is already planned, prefigured, it is there, but it is not open, it is prefigured, it's only a plan, and it is latent in its seed. The seed is the inconscient, and in the straining tense intention of its process. This whole phrase, straining tense intention of its process, is evolution. And it is strenuous, and it's also tense. It's not very easy. Evolution is very slow and laborious. Okay? But it becomes much faster after man appears on the scene. Okay? So, nor can that process, the process of evolution, that evolution cease until it has evolved the instruments of a perfect in place of its now imperfect manifestation of the spirit. The mind can manifest spirit much better than heart and life can definitely express the divine better than in matter. But now he wants above mind, he wants a supermind. Okay? So there is a gradation. This gradation is very important. We must keep it. There are many people. One day I was in the archives and they asked me, do you think the mother is divine? It sounded like, we are all materialists, and how can the divine be available at the physical level? So they forgot that there is a gradation. Anything above your own standard is divine compared to you. Okay, certainly they are divine. And the more they themselves, the avatars, feel that they are divine, they are divine. There is a gradation of, in Life Divine, there is a chapter, the divine and the undivine. There is nothing in this paragraph that we read just now, there is nothing undivine. Everything is divine, less or more, that's all. Okay, so we read the next paragraph. If knowledge is the widest power. One of you has to read. Who will read?
I will read.
Go ahead.
Who is reading? I can read.
Tarika is reading. Okay. Tarika, go ahead.
If
If,
knowledge If
yeah.
knowledge is the widest power of the consciousness and its function is to free and illumine, yet love is the deepest and most intense, and its privilege is to be the key to the most profound and secret recesses of the divine mystery. Man, because he is a mental being, is prone to give the highest importance to the thinking mind and its reason and will, and to its way of approach and effectuation of truth, and even he is inclined to hold that there is no other. The heart, with its emotions and incalculable movements, is to the eye of his intellect an obscure, uncertain, and often a perilous and misleading power which needs to be kept in control by the reason and the mental will and intelligence. And yet, there is in the heart or behind it a profounder mystic light, which, if not what we call intuition, for that, though not of the mind, yet descends through the mind, has yet a direct touch upon truth and is nearer to the divine than the human intellect in its pride of knowledge. According to the ancient teaching, the seat of the immanent divine, the hidden Purusha, is in the mystic heart, the secret heart cave, Hridaye Guhyam, as the Upanishads put it. And according to the experience of many yogis, it is from its depths that there comes the voice or the breath of the inner oracle.
Yeah. Tarika, you know Sanskrit very well. So read that italic thing again, once again.
Hridaye Guhyam.
No, Guhayam.
Sorry. Yeah, Guhaya.
Uh, Guhyam is the adjective, okay, but Guhayam is the locative in the
Yeah,
heart, in
yeah,
the
yeah,
deep
yeah.
heart.
I I
You're-
didn't see the
yeah, you are forgetting your Sanskrit.
in English. Sometimes I make this mistake. If it is written in Sanskrit,
You
then
won't.
yeah.
You won't make a mistake.
Uh,
Okay, so very simple. What Sindhu is saying here, those who are in the mind, because you get knowledge and you feel that it is far superior to the mind, and there's a truth to that because the emotions sometimes can be very intense, but they can lead you to wrong ideas. Na? Love of God, okay? Then you feel exclusive. My God is the only truth. You feel like that. So there is a narrowness sometimes in the lower levels. But love at the highest level, there is no narrowness at all. So that's what Srinivas point here. And it's mysterious. Knowledge is very clear. You have a clear picture of everything. But love is something difficult to explain. It is something so intense and so powerful. That's difficult to explain. That's why it's a secret. So he's saying. It's very plain what he's saying. So we'll go through each sentence. It's very simple to understand what he's saying. If knowledge is the widest power of the consciousness and its function is to free and illumine, first of all, you get free. What is meant by freedom? Your consciousness comes out of the prison of body, mind, life. You are not identified with your body, mind, life anymore. You are stationed actually above the head. Sometimes you feel you are out there. Okay, you feel I am here. Right now you feel you are in the chest area. Na? Sometimes you feel that this is me, but at that time you will feel yourself to be outside of the head. Okay. So, and illumine. The darkness is illumined. You get knowledge. Yet love is the deepest and most intense, and its privilege is to be the key to the most profound and secret recesses of the divine mystery. Okay. Love is the greatest, is a secret. Knowledge is a revelation. knowledge is above, the higher you go, but this is you're going deep into yourself. Okay, man, because he is a mental being, is prone to give the highest importance to the thinking mind and its reason and will, and to its way of approach and effectuation of truth, and even he is inclined to hold that there is no other. The Jnana Yogis always say that Jnana is superior to Bhakti. They say that. But Sadhu is saying, it may be true in a certain sense, but it's not the absolute. What love can give, intensity and emotion, knowledge need not give. It's best to combine the two. It's like comparing apples and pineapple. Both can be good. You can't say one is superior.
Rangada,
Yes, tell me. Tell me.
there is the phrase in French. There is a phrase in French. La, la cœur a ses raisons que la raison ne connaît pas.
Exactly. Pascal, I think it was Pascal who said that. Okay. So,
Yes.
that's, and the word raison is used in two different ways.
Yes.
Na? First, it means
Yes.
reason, and the other is the
Reason.
yeah. Yeah, it's used in two different ways. The cœur a ses raisons que la raison ne connaît pas. That's right. Okay, so that's exactly what Sridhar is saying in different words. The heart, with its emotions and incalculable movements, is to the eye of his intellect an obscure, uncertain, and often a perilous and misleading power which needs to be kept in control by the reason and the mental will and intelligence. This is true at the lower level. All our emotions, they can be pure in the higher vital, but even in the higher vital, there is a narrowness. Okay, I'll give you only one example. Take love of country. Okay? It's wonderful, no? Patriotism is a great emotion. You can sacrifice yourself. But is there not a limitation in that? Is there not a narrowness? My country, my love for my country. You are excluding all others. The divine is there in all other countries also. So although it is great, the pure emotion, even then there is a limitation. Knowledge removes that limitation. It becomes wide and absolutely infinite. So that's why they consider knowledge to be superior to love. Okay. And it can go to the worst level when you, in Islam, Allah is the only truth. You are loving your Allah. But what do? You start cutting off other people's necks because he doesn't believe in your Allah. So it can go to the other extreme. Okay. So definitely, in a sense, at the lower level, love of the divine is narrow. There are limitations. But knowledge is not like that. In our physical world, those who are narrow-minded and those who are wide-minded, okay, there is a difference. But even the wide-minded at our level, they are also narrow in a certain sense because they are eliminating certain things. So, as you keep going higher and higher, this distinction between knowledge and love disappears. At the highest level, Sat Chit Shakti Ananda. Knowledge is there as well as love and Ananda. Everything is there. They are all equal to each other. So, the heart with its emotions and incalculable movements is to the eye of his intellect. Now note that, it is interesting. The eye of the intellect. Okay. Even the intellect has got an eye. An obscure, uncertain, and often a perilous and misleading power which needs to be kept in control by the reason and the mental will and intelligence. And yet, there is in the heart or behind it. That's the thing. Behind it is the psychic being, and there it is perfect. There is no narrowness in the psychic. Behind it, a profounder mystic light, which, if not what we call intuition, for that, though not of the mind, yet descends through the mind, has yet a direct touch upon truth and is nearer to the divine than the human intellect in its pride of knowledge. So when the psyche comes forward, you are nearer to the divine in a certain sense than in the mind. According to the ancient teaching, he is talking of the Gita, the seat of the immanent divine, the hidden Purusha, is in the mystic heart, the secret heart cave, Hridaye Guhayam. No, I think this is from the Upanishads. Yeah, that's it. As the Upanishad puts it. And according to the experience of many yogins, it is from its depths that there comes the voice or breath of the inner oracle. The oracle is one who makes predictions. Na? So when the psyche comes forward, very often your future is revealed to you. That this will happen, that will happen. Okay, you get many. So the breath of the inner oracle. Okay, we go to the next one. We got enough time. This ambiguity, these opposing appearances. So Tarika read. Now next. Pallavi is in Nanded. Okay, Pallavi, you read.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead. This ambiguity.
this ambiguity, these opposing appearances of depth and blindness are created by the double character of the human emotive being. For there is in man a heart of vital emotion similar to the animals, if more variously developed. Its emotions are governed by egoistic passion, blind instinctive affections, and all the play of the life impulses with their imperfections, perversions, often sordid degradations, a heart besieged and given over to the lusts, desires, wraths, intents, or fierce demands, or little greeds and mean pettinesses of an obscure and fallen life force, and debased by its slavery to any and every impulse. This mixture of emotive heart and the sensational hungering vital creates in man a false soul of desire. It is this that is the crude and dangerous element which the reason rightly distrusts and feels a need to control. Even though the actual control, or rather coercion, it succeeds in establishing over our raw and insistent vital nature, remains always very uncertain and deceptive. But the true soul of man is not there. It is in the true invisible heart, hidden in some luminous cave of the nature. There, under some infiltration of the divine light, is our soul, a silent, inmost being of which few are even aware. For if all have a soul, few are conscious of their true soul or feel its direct impulse. There dwells the little spark of the divine, which supports the obscure mass of our nature, and around it grows the psychic being, the formed soul or the real man within us. It is at this psychic being in him grows and the movement of the heart reflects its divinizations and impulsions that man becomes more and more aware of his soul, ceases to be a superior animal, and awakening to glimpses of the Godhead within him, admits more and more its intimations of a deeper life and consciousness, and an impulse towards things divine. It is one of the decisive moments of the integral yoga when this psychic being, liberated, brought out from the veil to the front, can pour the full flood of its divinations, seeings, and impulsions on the mind, life, and body of man and begins to prepare the upbuilding of divinity in the earthly nature.
There you are. Okay, so a description of the surface vital, which he calls the desire soul, and the deeper desire, the deeper soul inside, which is the psychic being, and it's something that grows slowly. Okay, it's the divine element in you, which is the flame. Okay, that's why in the Vedas you have the symbol of Agni. Agni is the psychic being, and it is the Purohita. Okay, it is the one that puts you in touch with the divine. So that is the what he is describing here in this, the outer vital and the inner vital. Actually, there are three levels. There is an outer vital which Srendo calls the desire soul, and why he calls it a soul also we'll discuss. And there is the inner vital, which is a much vaster and purer one, but still it has got its limitations. And even behind the inner vital is the deep inside, is the psychic being, which is absolutely divine. It is growing. Okay, it's not absolutely fully openly divine in the beginning, but it has the capacity to develop into the put you in touch with the divine within you and even above. It has got the power to do that. And when it is fully bloomed outside, then it can touch you with the, it can put you in touch with the self. The self is above, vertically above you. The self does not evolve. The psychic being evolves. It's in movement in the physical world. The self is in level 2. The psychic being is in level 1, and therefore it is subject to growth. In the level 1, there is no growth. Even if there is a growth, it's a very slow growth. Okay? And in level 1, there is movement, okay? Dynamism, movement all the time. So that's why the psychic is the one that is growing. There is movement in it. So let's read each sentence. We have got 5 minutes. We'll see how far we can go. This ambiguity, this confusion between mind and the heart, this ambiguity, these opposing appearances, they are only appearances of depth and blindness, are created by the double character of the human emotive being. Double character, inward and outward. For there is in front, in man, a heart of vital emotion similar to the animals, if more variously developed. All the emotions that man has, the animal also has, but not as clearly defined. Okay? We have got envy, jealousy, okay, or enmity, all these things are also there in the animal. Okay, and even the ego is there also in the animal, but in a very, very veiled and reduced manner. So simply saying, if more variously developed. For instance, the uh, love of country, patriotism, selflessness, all these things are not there in the animal to that extent. But in man, it becomes much more obvious. You can sympathize with your neighbor, you can help your friends. A little bit of that is there in the animal also, similar to the animals, but not as developed as in man. Its emotions are governed by egoistic passion, blind instinctive affections, and all the play of the life impulses with their imperfections, perversions, often sordid degradations, cruelty, okay, perversion, all these things are there in the vital. There are higher things also, but there are also very, very low things. Meanness, okay. A heart besieged and given over to the lusts, desires, wraths, intense or fierce demands, and little greeds and mean pettinesses of an obscure and fallen life force, and debased by slavery to any and every impulse. Any desire that enters into you, you are a slave to it and you obey that desire. That's what Srinath is saying. Note the word fallen. Okay. The life, the imperfect vital is not permanently imperfect. It's a fallen condition of the life element, the Chit Shakti. At the highest level, it is pure. It comes down, it falls into degradation and it gets diminished in value. Okay, that's fallen. The word one will immediately give you the idea of the gradation. Forced and debased, made very, very low and mean by slavery to any and every impulse. This mixture of the emotive heart and the sensational, hungering, vital creates in man a false soul of desire. Now, why is Srinath calling it a soul? Because in the past, everything that is not physical is a soul. And there used to only a distinction was made in the West between body and soul. The gradations were not there, so that's why they used to mistake that. When someone dies, it's not the soul. It is there's a covering. The soul is covered by the vital, and there is also a covering of the mind, and all that comes out. And then just as the body dies, the vital also dies and dissolves. The mind dissolves, and then the remaining is the soul. But there is to be a confusion, and that's why he is calling it a false soul of desire. It is this that is a crude and dangerous element which the reason rightly distrusts. Okay? The Outer vital, yes, you have to keep it under control and feels a need to control, even though the actual control or rather coercion. Now note that when with your mind you are trying to control, you are not able to really control it. There is a difference between control and coercion, suppression and control. Okay. When you say you are controlling, the real control is absence of desire. But when a desire is there and you want to control it, you are pushing it down. It doesn't disappear. Okay. That's the difference between coercion and control. Control means you are free of it. Okay. But coercion, you are forcing it down, keeping it under a pressure, not allowing it to come up. It is there inside. It succeeds in establishing over our raw and insistent vital nature, remains always very uncertain and deceptive. The control of the mind is always uncertain and deceptive. But the true soul of man is not there. It is in the true invisible heart, hidden in some luminous cave of the nature. There, under some infiltration of the divine light, is our soul, a silent, inmost being of which few are even aware. For if all have a soul, few are conscious of their true soul and feel its direct impulse. There dwells the little spark of the divine. This is the definition of the psychic being. It's a spark of the divine, okay, which grows and becomes a flame. And this flame is pure. There is no smoke. Okay, in the Katha Upanishad, they describe it as the adhumaka, without smoke. Okay, it is without smoke. It's pure flame. That's the psychic being. First, it's only a spark. Then it grows into a flame. It is as this psychic being in him grows and the movements of the heart reflect its divinations. Now note the word divinations, we have discussed it earlier. Divination is not divinization. Divinization is making more divine. But divination is like the French word deviner, guesswork, vague intentions, vague ideas. Okay, not very vague, but you get glimpses, intuitions you get, divinations and impulsions, that man becomes more and more aware of his soul. You have a vague feeling that this is right and this is wrong. So that's a divination. Ceases to be the superior animal. The man is a superior animal until he gets a psychic being, then he becomes really a man. And awakening to glimpses of the Godhead within him admits more and more its intimations of a deeper life and consciousness and an impulse towards things divine. It is one of the decisive moments of the integral yoga when the psychic being, liberated, brought out from the veil to the front, can pour the full flood of its divinations, seeings and impulsions on the mind, life and body of man, and begins to prepare the upbuilding of divinity in the earthly nature. You could almost say that this integral yoga begins with two experiences. One is the awakening of the psychic being, and the other is the going to the self above. The self is vertical above the mind, and the psychic being is deep, horizontal, inside your own heart. You have to go deep inside. So that completes and we have also crossed our time by 2 minutes. So next time we'll take up as in the works of knowledge. So he goes on to, from Jnana Yoga, he is going to apply the concept of the ascent of sacrifice to love and devotion probably. Okay. Finally, he'll come to Karma Yoga or whatever. We'll see what it is. So next time, as in the works of knowledge. Okay.